On November 2, 1920, a black man in Florida walked to a polling place and tried to vote. By the next morning, his entire community was on fire. Homes burned, churches burned. A black man named July Perry, one of the most successful landowners in Ocoee, was dragged from his home, beaten, shot, and hanged from a telephone pole in downtown Orlando. The black residents of Ocoee fled into the swamps and never came back. Their land was seized. Their names were erased. For decades, Ocoee, Florida was a sundown town, a place where black people were not welcome after dark. And the men who burned it? Every single one of them walked free. This is episode 5 of How They Stole It. This is what happened when black people tried to vote. Ocoee, Florida, 1920, about 7 miles west of Orlando. The area had 2 black settlements, the northern quarters and the southern quarters. Roughly 80 black families, about 500 people, lived and worked the land. Many of them had purchased their property directly from the original white landowners. They owned their homes, they owned their farms, they grew citrus, raised livestock, and built their own churches, their own schools, their own community life. Among them were 2 men whose names deserve to be remembered. July Perry. Born in South Carolina in 1868, Perry moved to Ocoee and built a life. By 1920, he owned his home, his land, and worked as a labor agent and citrus farmer. He was a deacon at the local church. He was one of the most respected men in the black community, the kind of neighbor people went to for advice, for help, for leadership. Mose Norman. A prosperous black farmer in his own right, he owned land, citrus groves, and a car, which in rural Florida in 1920 was a significant marker of status. Mose Norman was a registered Republican, the party of Lincoln, the party of Reconstruction. And on November 2, 1920, he intended to cast his vote. The 19th Amendment had been ratified just months earlier, guaranteeing women the right to vote. The 15th Amendment had guaranteed black men the right to vote for 50 years, but in Florida, as across the South, that right existed on paper only. The Ku Klux Klan had made it clear, black people who attempted to vote in the 1920 election would face consequences. Mose Norman knew this. He went anyway. November 2, 1920, Presidential Election Day. Warren G. Harding versus James M. Cox. But in Florida, the real battle wasn't between Republicans and Democrats. It was between black citizens who wanted to vote and a white power structure that intended to stop them. Earlier that year, the Ku Klux Klan had marched through the streets of Orlando, openly, without masks, without fear, warning black residents not to vote. Flyers were circulated. Threats were made. On the morning of November 2nd, armed white men stationed themselves at polling places across the county. Mose Norman arrived at the Ocoee polling station, a wooden building in town. He was turned away. The poll workers told him his name wasn't on the registration list, which was false. Norman had paid his poll tax. He was a registered voter. They simply refused. Norman left. But he didn't give up. He drove to Orlando, found a white Republican attorney named John Cheney, and asked for help. Cheney called the Ocoee polling station and told them, "Mose Norman has the right to vote. Let him vote." When Norman returned to Ocoee that evening with his gun on the seat of his car, word had spread. The white men at the poll were waiting. A confrontation erupted. Shots may have been fired. Accounts differ on who fired first. Norman fled into the darkness. But the mob didn't care that Norman was gone. They needed a target, and they chose July Perry. The mob of roughly 100 white men surrounded July Perry's home. Inside, Perry, his wife, and his daughter. Perry, a deacon and a landowner, knew what was coming. He had a rifle. He intended to defend his family. The mob demanded Perry come out. He refused. Gunfire erupted. Accounts say Perry wounded at least 1 white man in the exchange, and that the man later died. When the firing stopped, the mob overran the house. They beat July Perry savagely. They dragged him outside. According to some accounts, they cut off his finger to steal his ring. Then they turned to the rest of Ocoee. For the rest of the night, the mob swept through the black sections of town. They burned homes. They burned churches. They burned the school. They burned the meeting hall. Black families, women, children, elderly, ran into the swamps and orange groves in the dark, hiding in freezing water among the cypress trees. Some hid for days. Some were never seen again. The exact death toll is unknown. Contemporary accounts range from 6 to over 50. The state of Florida has never conducted a complete investigation. What is known? At least 2 black churches were burned. At least 25 black homes were destroyed. Every black-owned business in Ocoee was leveled. and July Perry, beaten, bleeding, nearly dead, was taken to a jail cell in Orlando. But the mob wasn't finished with July Perry. A few hours later, a different mob, possibly the same men, cut the power to the Orlando jail. They dragged Perry from his cell, drove him to a telephone pole near the home of one of the county's most prominent white citizens, and hanged him. Some accounts say they shot his body multiple times as it swung. They left him there as a message. No one was ever arrested for the lynching of July Perry. No one was ever arrested for the burning of Ocoee. Not one arrest, not one trial, not one conviction. After the massacre, the land grab began. Black families who fled Ocoee never returned. Some were too terrified. Others tried to come back and found their homes occupied or demolished. Their land was purchased, or more accurately taken, by white residents for a fraction of its value or for nothing at all. Deeds were re-registered. Property boundaries were redrawn. Within a few years, not a single black family owned land in Ocoee, Florida. For the next 60 years, Ocoee was a sundown town, a place where black people could work during the day if they were needed, but could not live, could not own property, and could not be within city limits after dark. The town that had once been home to 500 black residents, 2 black churches, a black school, and black-owned businesses became, officially and deliberately, all white. And the story was buried. The Ocoee Massacre was not taught in Florida schools. It was not mentioned in local history books. When the Orlando Sentinel covered the event in the days after, it used passive language. Race trouble near Ocoee. No names of perpetrators, no death toll, no mention of the lynching. The official silence lasted more than 6 decades. Mose Norman, the man who tried to vote, escaped. His fate is unknown. Some accounts say he made it north and started a new life under a different name. Others say he was killed in the days after, and his body was never found. What is certain? He never returned to Ocoee. Neither did his descendants, neither did July Perry's. The Perry family scattered across the country. For generations they carried the story, but not the land, not the inheritance, not the wealth that July Perry had built over a lifetime of work. Today, Ocoee is a suburb of Orlando. Population, roughly 50,000. It's the kind of place where people commute to the city, raise families, go to church on Sunday. Most residents have no idea what happened here. In 2018, the city of Ocoee issued a proclamation formally acknowledging the massacre. 2 years later, the centennial, 2020, a historical marker was erected near the site of the violence. It names July Perry. It names Mose Norman. It acknowledges the burning, the lynching, the erasure. But no land has been returned. No compensation has been paid. July Perry's descendants have asked for both. The state of Florida has not responded. In November 2025, for the first time in its 105-year history, the city of Ocoee officially observed July Perry Remembrance Day. It took over a century for the town to say his name out loud. The land where July Perry's house stood is now someone's front yard. The churches that were burned were never rebuilt. The school is gone. The orange groves are subdivisions. There is no museum, no memorial hall, no archive. Just a single sign on the side of the road, telling a fraction of the story to a world driving past at 45 miles an hour. Oscarville, Tulsa, Rosewood, Wilmington, Ocoee. They stole the land, they stole the wealth, they stole the community, they stole the government, and now they stole the vote itself. Here's the pattern. Black people build something, and the response is always the same. Violence, erasure, the rewriting of the story, and then, decades later, a marker on the side of the road. Ocoee is different in one way, though, because in Ocoee, they didn't even wait for a lie. There was no false accusation, no rumor of assault, no invented crime. Mose Norman committed the only offense that mattered. He tried to vote, and for that, they burned his entire community. Think about that the next time someone tells you your vote doesn't matter. It mattered so much that they killed people to stop it. Next episode, we go back further, before Tulsa, before Wilmington, before Ocoee, to the Reconstruction era, when black men were elected to Congress and the response was organized terror. Colfax, Louisiana, Easter Sunday, 1873. The deadliest single act of racial violence in the post-Civil War era, and the Supreme Court decision that gave the killers a legal blueprint for a century of murder. Subscribe, hit the bell. We tell these stories one at a time because they don't teach this in school, so we will.